I just really felt like it was going to be important since we had just finished the study of 2 Kings. We had looked at what it was that took Israel and Judah out by virtue of their disobedience and rejection of the Lord, that it would be important to look at another side, if you will, another aspect of what was happening. I mean, we had no problem seeing that they messed up, and because of that, lost their freedom, wound up in captivity. But it was interesting to see Habakkuk was one of the last prophets to preach to the southern kingdom of Judah prior to the Babylonian invasions, the Babylonian sieges that wound up taking them into captivity. And I thought it good for us to look at it from the eyes of the prophet. Let's look at what was happening in God's prophet at the time that Judah was falling and what was happening and what was taking place. We don't know that much about Habakkuk. I mean, really don't, other than the fact that he's got a fun name to say. Everybody say Habakkuk. Or Habakkuk. You can say Habakkuk or Habakkuk, and I'll say it probably a variety of different ways. But we don't know a lot about him, but the last verse gives us an indication within what he prepared, that he had prepared this for the chief singer on my stringed instruments. And so there's this correlation that he obviously was of the priesthood and potentially a musician, and he had put this together in lyrical form. And so it's why, as we read through the book, you can see that the prose in which it are written would liken itself or lend itself very well to be put to music. And very often stories, very often accounts were put to music in Israel because, let's face it, how many of you remember songs you don't want to? You know what I mean? We've been in a variety of different places here not too long ago, and it's like a song will come up that was like popular back in the 70s, and it's just some like really silly 70s, 80s disco thing or something, but it's like I can remember every stinking word and I don't want to. But when it comes to remembering and memorizing Scripture, I'm like, ah. So the Jews knew this, and they took very often, and they would place stories. They would take the accounts, and they would put them to music and make them a song, therefore endearing them for generations. And so we see that most likely he was potentially part of a worship team in the temple, or he was called to be a priest prior to receiving his call as a prophet. Now, the ministry of prophets in these days was greatly different than that of a priest. And we don't have any kind of modern-day parallel to an Old Testament prophet today. And the reason is very simple. There's no need for the prophecy or type of prophecy for God to speak to people as he did in the Old Testament now. Why? Well, Hebrews 1:1 answers that question very clearly. It says, God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in the past to the fathers by the prophet, has in these last days spoken to us by his Son, in whom he is appointed heir of all things, and through whom he also made all the worlds. So we know that there's a difference between the Old Testament means by which God spoke to people and the New Testament means. Now, it's interesting because the Old Testament times and the prophets, while the priests were really highly structured, I mean, the priests had rites and rituals, and they had to do everything right, and they went by the Levitical calendar, and they had to keep everything perfectly. The prophets were just ODK. The prophets were out there kicking. They had opportunity to just kind of do all kinds of wild and crazy things. Isaiah, for example, right? God told him, strip down naked and walk around and just get people's attention by being butt naked. It's in the Bible. Ezekiel was told to cut off his hair, throw it in the fire. Now, we think, oh, well, big deal, he got a haircut. No. Big deal for Jews to cut their hair. Big deal. I mean, if you've seen the Jews, those that are devout, you know that they've got the curls and the hair, and the growing of the hair and the beard are very significant to their faith. And to do that, it was pretty wild and crazy. Jonah was arranged for to have that crazy wild cruise inside the big fish, you know. And then we've got Hosea, who was supposed to marry a prostitute, just in order to illustrate God's faithfulness to an Israel that would continue to prostitute itself to other gods. And I'm glad, guys, let me tell you what, I am so glad that there aren't really any calls for modern-day prophets likened to that in the Old Testament. I'm glad I'm a pastor. I really don't want to have to find myself in Dayton walking around naked, bald, smelling like fish, and we're not even going into the last place. I mean, we're just not even going there. But Habakkuk was different than many of the other prophets. He was different because he seemed to be more interested in asking the questions than speaking to the people. And it's this record of the questions that he asked God, the things that he wanted God to answer about what was happening, that I think is so important for our understanding, because I believe that many of the questions that he asked are exactly the same questions that we have today. They're the same questions as we would look around. Now, we also have to understand that there were highs and lows in his life as there were and are in our lives. As a matter of fact, right before his time of ministry, he saw a great revival of sorts. You remember, as we were completing the book of 2 Kings, we saw this King Josiah that came on the scene. And although he took over at 8 years of age, by the time he was 16, so much was his heart towards the Lord that he started restoring the temple. He started tearing down the high places. He started looking to return the people towards the things of the Lord. And then all of a sudden, one day, his scribe, by going to the temple and checking on the progress, was given a copy of the law. They found a Bible. I mean, this is really what it came down to. They found in the ruins of the temple the shambled conditions. As they were cleaning up and sweeping out, somebody went, "Hey, I wonder what this is." And they handed it to the scribe, and he started reading it, and he brought it back to Josiah, and he read it to Josiah, and it just broke Josiah's heart. He says, that's the Word of God. That's the law. That's God's instruction to us. And because we haven't followed it, we're having all of this calamity. Our fathers have led us into this path of destruction. And so he winds up bringing the people back by virtue of the finding of this Old Testament Bible, if you will, in the form of the law of God. Now, what's really interesting to me and very troubling at the same time is that while this revival happened because of the reintroduction of the Word of God, how it is that we wouldn't realize the significance of the Word of God then in the lives of the believer. And yet time and time again, I can't tell you how many people that I come across, Christians, good-hearted, well-meaning Christians, that don't open their Bible, except for maybe in church. That just haven't got to the place where they realize how imperative the Word of God is in every aspect of their lives, every single day. And guys, we have to understand that not only is it harmful to the Christian, but it's harmful to the church that doesn't open the Bible. I mean, there's churches that you can't find a Bible in. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I've heard people talk about, well, yeah, we used to take our Bibles to churches, but we don't need to anymore. Excuse me? Well, yeah, we just really haven't found the need. It's not necessary that we do that. Guys, understand, as a believer, as a child of God, as a born-again saint of the one true and living God, it is our privilege. Not only a privilege, it is something that we should so desire to do, which is reading the love letter that God has prepared for us, the instructions that He gives to us, the wisdom and knowledge passed on to us by us coming to know His nature and character as only we can through His Word. It's that which is going to draw us to the place of being victorious rather than being a victim. God's Word is so important. So Habakkuk is watching the people plunge into idolatry and immorality. Josiah's son after him, well, as Josiah was good, his son was wicked. Resurrected the high places, brought back the pagan worships within even the temple. And so with great conviction now, we see Habakkuk going to the Lord and asking him some questions, looking for answers. And I believe, again, some of the same questions that we have. I believe he was asking the Lord, don't you see what's going on? Lord? Hello? Don't you see what's happening in front of us here? I think another question he had was this, why are you not judging? Why are you not judging even your people, let alone the world? But you're not even exercising judgment in a means by which it would cause affliction on your people. Lord, why aren't you working? Why aren't you moving? Why don't I see your efforts going anywhere? Why don't I see revival again? Why don't I see these things happening? Well, we had a taste of it, but now we're right back into the sewer where we were at. And Lord, how come you're not acting? Lord, where are you? So with this, Habakkuk records what he's seeing. And in verse 1, he says, the burden which the prophet Habakkuk saw. Now the word or the name Habakkuk means wrestler. It means to wrestle. And this is what he's about to do with God. And he's looking at the world that is around him, and he is greatly distressed. I mean, the world is so bad that he says, just looking out my door, it's a burden. How many of you feel like that sometimes? Boy, don't watch the news. It will not uplift you. Okay? If you don't come away burdened after watching an hour of the news, I don't know what you can come away with. If burdening is probably the less that you'll have, you'll be angry, mad, and ready to shoot the TV, kick the dog, or do something else, because it's just going to cause this to come up and well up within you. And he says, when I look, I am just absolutely burdened. The world that he was living in was dangerous. It was uncertain. It was filled with ungodliness and wickedness. The people did whatever they wanted and what seemed right in their own eyes. And to that extent, it would seem that God was absent or totally disinterested. Wait a minute. Are we in 609 BC or the year 2015? You can see, guys, nothing has changed. And I think that so often we have a tendency to think that somehow or another that we are the first generation to live through this kind of junk. Oh, it's so bad now. It was never this bad. Yes, it has been that bad, and it will continue to be that bad because it is based on the heart of man, and the heart of man is above all things deceitfully wicked. And so it's not a new concept. The very exact same things that were happening in the world in the time of Habakkuk 2,624 years ago are exactly the same kind of things that are happening in our world today. Nothing has changed, save maybe technology. Oh, sure, they didn't have cars and airplanes and cell phones, but you know what? The very aspects of communication, the very aspects of what was going on in the morality of the people separated from God were exactly the same thing that's going on today. They had an ancient version of every modern day vice that we have. The hearts of the people were the same. And so in verse 2 he cries out, "Oh Lord, how long shall I cry and you will not hear? Even cry out to you violence and you will not save. Why do you show me iniquity and cause me to see trouble? For plundering and violence are before me. There is strife and contention arises. Therefore the law is powerless and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous. Therefore perverse judgment proceeds." So Habakkuk says, Lord, I am crying out at the top of my lungs. How long will it be before you hear me? I mean, he even goes to the point, he says, I'm calling 911 and I'm not getting anybody. I'm crying violence. I mean, I'm crying out, help! Top of my lungs, and you're not listening. You're not responding. You're not coming. Lord, where are you? You know, one of the things that I think culturally that we've completely lost is the ability to wait and trust based on what we know, not necessarily what we see. Now, it's important, and it's about the communication, instant communication world in which we live. I mean, we live in a time to where our modern technology has caused us to want everything, have an expectation that we have instant gratification, instant information, instant results. And Stephanie and I just a week or so ago, we were down in Florida, and we were there with the kids, and we were at one of the major amusement parks, and it was a blessing at times to be able to send a text and say, where are you? And from somewhere within the bowels of the park, they would write back, we're over by the Ferris wheel. Hey, we know where we're going to go. And she was talking about, oh, when I was a kid, and we would go to Disneyland. Oh, it was terrible because we would have to set pre-arranged times and locations to meet, and it never worked. because you would be in line waiting, and you couldn't get out of line. You've been waiting for 45 minutes to get on the ride, but yet in 3 minutes you know that you were supposed to meet over there, and you're not going to make it because it's still 15 minutes, so the whole plan would just get thwarted for lack of communication. But yet, don't you find that when you call a number and nobody answers, you get a little edgy? Why aren't they answering? More than once, I've wondered why I've given my wife a cell phone. Most of the time when I dial it, it will ring in the house and she's not there. So I pick it up and talk to myself. Hi, honey, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. It's good to talk to you. Okay, good. Where you at? Oh, I'm at the grocery store right now. Okay, so I have no idea where she is because she doesn't have her phone with her. Or you text somebody. What is the idea of a text, right? It's instant messaging. I want you to get back to me in an instant. Have you ever gotten a text back like 2 days later and you're like, dude, where you been? It's like, no, I text you because I wanted information now. Well, I didn't feel like giving it to you, so I made you wait for a day and a half. Or I didn't see it. And then they always tell you, oh, I didn't get your text. Yes, you did. You got it. You just didn't answer it. I'm sorry, dude, I didn't get your message. You know, I wonder if there's like a study on how many of that times that really happens. I'm going to have to check that out because I want to be able to validate that. No, 23% of the time, AT&T drops calls, the message never comes through. Yeah, I've got evidence. Here's the thing. So I didn't get your call, dude. You don't. Yeah. You guys just keep thinking that. Yeah, but see, what happens is that so often we expect God to answer at the same pace and the same rate that we would like other people to answer. But the thing we need to remember is God is timeless. God doesn't have a time frame. He's not worried that it's been 24 hours since we asked him for an answer. And so it's interesting here because our relationship with God being one that's supposed to be built on trust and reliance with the expectation of eternity, we still at times will think, God, you didn't respond to my text. You didn't instant message me. You didn't return my call right away. So therefore, something is wrong. Habakkuk's overwhelmed by what he sees. Every aspect of his world is out of control. Everything around him seems to be just literally going to hell in a handbasket. The people are wicked and twisted. The government and the courts are so far away from justice that there is no justice to be found. He can't understand why God's allowing so much evil to prevail. And he wants God to do something about it. He says, Lord, if you're not going to judge, at least do something. If you're not going to just rain down wrath and cause there to be this incredible consequence for behavior, at least step in and do something. And guys, I believe that this is one of the questions or one of the responses that we sometimes will ask God is, Lord, if you're really there, why are you allowing these things to take place? Why are you allowing so much evil to take place in the world? Why are you allowing the types of persecution that we're seeing in the Middle East? Why are you allowing the disconnect between what is considered to be just reasonable behavior and what we see happening on the streets in America? Why is it that when we look to Washington, all we see is a nut house, not a house of legislation? Lord, what's going on? What's wrong? I mean, wouldn't it be great? Think about it. Wouldn't it be great if God would just like reach down and just like fix something somewhere supernaturally, miraculously? Like the next time Congress went to meet, there was a hand on the wall. Right? Meanie, meanie, tickle you parson. I mean, you know, your days are numbered, guys. Some major manifestation of a work of God that would just take and cause people to go, whoa, something's not right here. We better pay attention to what's going on. And so often we think, wow, why is it that we can't see God move in those ways? And guys, understand, it's not that God doesn't care what's going on. As a matter of fact, the fact that these things are going on is a derivative of just how much God cares. What does that mean, Pastor? Well, what it means is that God has already provided the solution for every problem that we have. He did it through the process of reaching down to us with His Son, Jesus Christ. You see, the world in itself was in need of salvation, and God reached down and gave us a Savior. And once and for all has provided a solution to the evil in the world. The world that was desperate and called on a Savior, God did something, and He addressed the evil. But there's a lot of people that aren't satisfied with that answer. Oh, well, sure. Well, He sent Jesus. But why didn't He do something about all of these things that are going around? And guys, understand that the fact of the matter is that if God was to take and override all of the evil in the world, we would lose our ability to choose. We would have no choice. If there was no evil, if God interceded, if He was to come and supernaturally intervene and protect people from evil, what would happen is that we would lose our ability to love and to be loved by God. Wait a minute, you mean that evil is an act of love? Oh no, not evil in itself, but the appearance of and the allowance of evil is. It's interesting. If we think about it, we know that God does intervene supernaturally. I can tell you of times specifically in my life where I know that God's hand directed and protected my life. I know it without a doubt. There are times when God will choose to intervene supernaturally and move a car that's coming at you, protect you within the means of what's taking place. I mean, I know without a doubt that I have seen times where in the relationship that I have with God and with my family and the things that we've prayed for and we've prayed for other people, that I have seen God's hand move supernaturally and intervene on the lives and behalf of His children. But there's also the reality that God allows evil in the world because it's attached to His love for us. I can't tell you how, I can't tell you when. There's not a formula or a process, but I know it to be true that while we know God will rescue us from evil, we also know that God allows it because if He was to eliminate it, we would have no exercise of free will. In order for God to give us an opportunity to choose, there has to be something in which to choose from. There has to be that which is of God and that which is of the world. There has to be a contrast. There has to be the difference between that which is good and that which is evil in order for us to make a decision and a choice. And without the choice, well, we can't love God. I can't force or by force demand that anyone loves me. I can't say, love me or else, and have somebody go, oh, okay, I will love you genuinely and sincerely. Oh, they may go through the motions of what looks like love, but in the back of their mind they're thinking, man, if I ever get the chance, I am so out of here. I can't believe I'm being forced and compelled to do what I'm not wanting to do, and even if I did want to do it, I don't want to be forced into it. It has to be done freely. It has to be an expression of the heart, not something that is caused and provoked. But yet, there's still people that say, you know what, I still want a God who would remove evil from the world. And so I ask him, I say, okay, well then tell me, what evil do you want him to remove? Let's start with the biggies. What are some of the biggies? Oh, terrorists. Easy picking. Lord, just come down and any terrorist that you see anywhere, just squish him like a bug. Nobody would miss him. Right? How about murderers? Oh, the takers of innocent life. God, we know you've judged them. Would you just remove them? Would you just take them out? Well, do we want them to take them out before or after they commit the murder? Hold on to that thought. How about rapists, child molesters? How about things on a global scale like hunger and famine and natural disasters? God, how come you're not doing this? And it's not a hard to to agree on these things that are vile and wicked that everyone would like to see go away. But yet if we carry this logic, this idea of having God take everything out that's sinful, we would come to the place to where we would absolutely not have any opportunity to love God because we would be robotic, brainless minions. I mean, I've carried this conversation with people to the point that we get down to people that write hot checks. Oh, so the guy that writes a bad check, oh, yeah, that's terrible. The thief, oh, yeah. Thieves, oh, yeah. Kill them all! God, get them all! And then you ask them, hey, have you ever stolen anything? Yeah, but I repented. Well, yeah, but shouldn't have God just taken you out before you even had a chance to repent? I mean, now you're talking about grace. You didn't want grace for any of these folks. Have you ever told a lie? Well, yeah. Well, you want God to take out those people that are untruthful, those liars, those people that do things that cheat. And when do you want Him to take them out? Do you want Him to take them out at the point that they do it? Do you want Him to take it out right before it causes harm? You following my logic here? If God was to intervene on every cause, at every level, we would have no opportunity to love God. And this is what Habakkuk is asking. He's saying, God, how come you're not doing anything? How come you're not coming? And here's the thing that's so amazing, because he asks the question, and then God answers him, but he doesn't get the answer he was expecting. Look at what it says in verse 5. Look among the nations and watch. Be utterly astounded, for I will work a work in your days which you would not believe, though it were told to you. For indeed I am raising up the Chaldeans, a bitter and hasty nation, which marches the breadth of the earth and possesses dwelling places that are not theirs. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity proceed from themselves. Their horses are swifter than leopards and more fierce than evening wolves. Their chargers charge ahead. Their cavalry comes from afar. They fly as an eagle that hastens to eat. They all come for violence. Their faces are set like the east wind. They gather captives like sand. They scoff at kings and princes and are scorned by them. They deride every stronghold, for they heap up earthen mounds and seize it. Then his mind changes, he transgresses, he commits offense, ascribing his power to his God. Okay? Didn't see that one coming. Habakkuk says, Lord, why aren't you doing anything? And he's complaining that nothing's happening. But the Lord says, the fact that everything is so bad, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, so what you're saying is that it's really, really bad because you want it to be really, really bad. And the Lord says, yep. As a matter of fact, if I told you in great detail what it was that I was doing and what I was accomplishing, it would blow your mind. You would not even be able to handle it. You would not be able to understand it, so there's no reason for me to even tell you. But let me answer the next question before you even ask it. The next question is what am I doing? Well, here's what I'm doing. I'm empowering Nebuchadnezzar and the Chaldeans. I am giving them not only power to come against you, but I'm allowing them to overtake you. They are going to be those that are going to judge Israel. Habakkuk, you asked for your people to be judged. Here comes the hammer. Here they come. I'm going to send in the Babylonians, the Chaldeans. I'm going to send these people in, and they are going to be the instrument of my judgment against Israel, and Israel is going to be completely crushed. How do you like me now? I mean, God says, you wondered what I wasn't doing. You wondered why I am doing according to my plan. And guys, as we look around the nations and we see the judgment of God falling all around us, we have to wonder, what is the response of the people? Again, I need you to think a little bit abstractly now for the message. We want the world to be judged because of evildoers. I mean, now be honest. How many of us as Christians haven't thought from time to time, Lord, wouldn't it be great if you would just Lord, if you will, give me just a little fire. Even if it just burns the top of their head, I want that power. But yet, while we would want to see the world judged of evildoers, the world doesn't seem to heed the need for judgment, do they? I mean, the evildoers that you know, the world that you look at out there, do you see them walking around going, oh man, we're really in trouble? Isn't it amazing how the world doesn't perceive that they're evil? Wow, it kind of takes all the fun out of it, doesn't it? I mean, how do you punish somebody that doesn't feel like they're deserving of punishment? Isn't that hard? It's like, well, if you're not even going to realize that you're wrong, it's no fun for me to tell you that you're wrong. I'm wrong? Really? How can I possibly be wrong? Those that are practicing evil don't recognize judgment and certainly would not necessarily respond to judgment even in the midst of calamity. I mean, how many people do you talk to that you walk away after the conversation shaking your head, or you see a commentator say something and you're going, what planet are you from that you could actually think that somehow or another that makes sense? I mean, I think most recently, one of the things that has been brought to light is this whole situation with Planned Parenthood. And the conversation and the argument has become about how it is that they were victimized by an undercover sting operation. Oh, this is just absolutely terrible. Oh, you're right, it's terrible. Oh, it's terrible the way these people came in and tricked these people. Tricked them into telling what they were doing. That's just wrong. That is so wrong. Matter of fact, that is so wrong that I can't believe. We need to start an investigation on the people that said that they were that it went in and exposed this because they were so wrong. Oh, well, what about the baby? Well, no, the baby, no, they don't count. It's about this. And you think, even if you were judged, you wouldn't get it. Even if God did show up, you wouldn't recognize that you're under judgment. You would just think that it's business as usual. Oh, we got a problem. We need to throw more money at it. Need more lawyers. Get the news media. Let's make sure we spin this in the right direction. The whole time, it's calamity. It's disaster. It's judgment. It's a lack of God's protection going on all around them, and they just swim in the sewer thinking that they're in a swimming pool somewhere. So when calamity does come, who is it that sees it? I mean, who is it that's going to be the beneficiary, if you will, of seeing God's hand move through the calamity, seeing God's hand move through the judgment? It's going to be God's people. It's going to be God's people. Wow, Pastor, this is kind of like weird. This is kind of like, so what you're telling me is that the Lord is allowing all of this to happen, but the people that are doing it, the wicked people that we want Him to judge, are not the people that are responding. The people that are seeing it and the people that He wants to respond is us? Yeah. He wants us to respond. They don't get it. They're not going to get it unless we show them. Oh, so we can rail. We can yell at them. We can picket. We can have signs. We can launch campaigns. We can take and boycott. We do all these things, and the reality is that they're never going to see it because we're not pointing to that which brings the solution, which is Jesus Christ and this gospel of salvation. We're just trying to demonstrate to somebody that they're wrong, that doesn't know they're wrong and wouldn't believe it if they saw it and it bit them. Now, will calamity sometimes cause people to turn away from wickedness? When somebody goes to put their hand on a hot burner, will they pull it back because it's hot? Sure. In Israel's case, we see them time and time again get away from the Lord, forsake the Lord, but they had something to come back to. They knew they were getting away from the Lord. They knew that they had been given the law. They knew that there was a leader in the form of Moses that had brought them on behalf of God a law from which they were to prescribe. They knew that they were supposed to make sacrifices. They knew that they were supposed to follow the 10 Commandments and the laws that had been laid down to them. And when they got away from them and they found themselves in calamity, the solution was to run back to that which they knew. The problem is as we look around the world right now, I'm afraid that so many that we would classify as those who are running away and away from the Lord don't even know what they would turn from, let alone what they would turn to. They don't know. I mean, we're growing up in literally a godless generation to where the kids that are growing up today, it isn't that they're running away from and rejecting God. They don't know God. Oh, and when I say kids, I'm counting anyone that's probably within, what do they call those? They're millennials? Is that what they are now? I'm like so unhip. Do we have any millennials? We have a millennial. You're a millennial, right? Right? Ooh, yeah. You didn't even know you were a millennial. Yeah, isn't it so cool to live in Dayton? We don't know any of this stuff. I was just in a pastor's conference over in California, and they used that phrase, and I had to have them define it for me. I have no idea. What's a millennial? Well, it's those that were born and are growing up in this first generation of the new millennium. Right? So if you've come into the year 2000 and you're somewhere between the ages of say, 0 and 15 or 20, then you're in that millennial age. Ooh, you're a millennium. Or a millennial. Congratulations. They're growing up without a concept. The only concept of God, if they have it, is that it is a God that is by choice, and it is irrelevant because it is universal. God is universal to any and every religion. Every religion has one. If you want it, fine. If you don't, leave it. You can take it. You don't have to have it. And when you talk about how is it that God is going to take and pour out some sort of judgment or determination that people would take and turn to Him, how are they going to know where to turn if they've never been told? They've never been taught. If they've never seen the value in God, the true God, the living God. So we see evil running through the streets. Guys, if all we do is complain about the evil and hope that somehow those who practice it will straighten up because all of a sudden they're going to get hit by a brick and come to their minds and go, oh, that's my problem. I don't know God. Would you tell me, please? Good luck. It's not going to happen. God says, I am doing something. He says, Habakkuk, the problem is you're just missing what I'm doing because you're not looking at it the same way that I am. So Habakkuk shows a little bit of smarts here. He changes his tone a little bit. Now, let me tell you what, if you're questioning God and you ask Him something and you sound a little hostile and He answers you in a way that is far above your capacity, it's always good to be a little humble the next time you ask. And Habakkuk learns this. So look at what he says. He says, are you not, in verse 12, from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One, we shall not die, O Lord. You have appointed them for judgment. He's saying, okay, Lord, you're a good God, and everything's going to be okay, right? I mean, we're not the ones that are, but you're going to judge them, right? We're okay. O rock, you have marked them for correction. You are of purer eyes than to behold evil, and cannot look on wickedness. Why do you look on those who deal treacherously, and hold out your tongue when it is wicked devourers of persons more righteous than he? Or hold your tongue. Why do you make men like fish of the sea, like creeping things that have no ruler over them? And they take them, all of them, with a hook, and they catch them in their nets, and they gather them in their dragnet. Therefore they rejoice and are glad. Therefore they sacrifice to their net and burn incense to their dragnet, because by them they share in sumptuous and their food plentiful. Shall they therefore empty their net and continue to slay nations without pity? Habakkuk tries to argue back and say, Lord, you're missing my point. You missed my point. I'm concerned about your people and how they're running towards evil and the need for you to judge them. And what you're saying is that you're using these barbarians, these Chaldeans, these Babylonians, and why would you use people that are worse than the people that I want you to judge? This is almost kind of like two wrongs. The people are really wrong, and what you're saying is you're using a wrong in order to try to affect them. And so Habakkuk says, that doesn't make any sense. He says, Lord, please don't do what you're doing. He says, Lord, the Babylonians are too harsh. I know we're bad, but they're like crazy bad. I know we're messing up, but these people are just wicked. And as we studied that in the last part of 2 Kings, we saw that in fact the people groups that were coming against Israel were just horrific. But folks, we need to take and look around the world and we see the increase of ungodliness and we wonder how it is that we've somehow lost control. And the question is did we really ever have control in the first place? You know, I look at this from a national standpoint, and I tell you what, I'm as much of a patriot, and I love this country, and I love the fact that I truly believe that God gave us this country in pursuit of the ability to worship Him, and it was given and granted, and the power and the influence and everything that we have experienced up to this point in time was given by, directed by, and protected by God Almighty. I believe that. And I believe that as we move farther and farther away from the things of God, that we're seeing the removal of His hand of protection, that we're seeing these things come away from us. And guys, it breaks my heart, but at the same time, I'm wondering what it is that we should be doing, we can be doing, because as the nation rejects God, it is destined to fall. But if we're going to come back to God, it's got to start with the people of God. It's got to start with us. I mean, the turning point of the nation is not going to be an election. Oh, let me tell you what, I really hope that we get a godly president. I do. And as we get closer, we'll talk about where each of the candidates stand equally in relationship to how it is that they would apply, or what they've said they will apply, the principles and the things of God in their administration. And we'll talk about, there isn't a separation between church and state that doesn't allow us to be able to talk about what their record is, how they vote, and what their thoughts especially on God are. And if they will allow God to be a part of their administration. There's no law against that. Oh, I can't tell you, you need to vote for this guy and this guy alone. At least not from the pulpit. If you see me privately, I'll be happy to share that with him. Because you know the other side is. But see, we can't do that from the pulpit because then that would be dishonest and wrong. A godless nation can't turn to a God it doesn't know. And yet, we know that in 2 Chronicles, and we'll get there eventually. Got to go through 1 Chronicles first, so I don't know how long it'll take us to get there, so I'm going to jump ahead. Chapter 7 and verse 14, a verse that we're all familiar with. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and heal their land. Now here's the thing. It all starts with God's people humbling ourselves. It all starts with our willingness to allow God to heal through our humility and our subjection to Him the land that is our lives. The land that we possess, that which is within our control. Now see, we read this verse and we think, oh, if we just pray, He'll heal the land. No. Not first. First, we have to humble ourselves. First, we have to be willing to submit and subject ourselves to Him as our Lord and Savior. Then He will heal the land that is my heart. Then He will heal the relationship that I have with my wife and with my kids. And He will heal the influence in the places that I have that I can reach into, because now I'm a humble servant of the one true and living God, exempling His love and compassion for mankind. And in so doing, the healing starts taking place. And when it does, there will be the potential then for the entire land, the entire nation, should we turn and subject ourselves to Him, that there would be healing. But it has to start with us. Guys, God doesn't want us to think that because things are hard that He's not working. He doesn't want us to think that everything is lost. As a matter of fact, I believe that as it was in the time of Habakkuk, it is in the time now, that God is allowing and doing exactly what's happening. And it's creating for us an amazing opportunity that if we are slow to see it, we'll miss out on. I had a conversation with a guy just today. He says, the problem is I'm just confused. I said, great. He goes, huh? I said, yeah, confusion is a great tool of the Lord. The Lord will allow your mind and your spirit and your heart to be overrun to the point that nothing makes sense until you seek Him. Oh, wow. That's amazing. You mean that in God I can end this confusion that I have? Yes. He promises us soundness of mind. Promises us His wisdom, His knowledge, His peace, His comfort, His instruction, His protection. We had to turn to Him. So my hope right now for us is that as we would look at what's going on, and this is why I didn't want to just go into Chronicles. I wanted to stop and not leave it on the, oh man, we're in trouble note. Man, I didn't want to leave it on, man, Judah just fell because, and boy, we are so much like Judah. We are like toast. No, God said, if I told you what I was doing right now to blow your mind, blow your mind. You want to be really encouraged? Read ahead. Chapter 2, Habakkuk. We will be there next time. Read ahead because you're going to see Habakkuk do exactly what he should do. He says, all right, Lord, I may not be able to see it, but I'm going to trust you. Amen?